Broke and heartbroken, a divorced black mom's world flips upside down when a surprise reunion with her wealthy CEO ex ignites chaos, especially after their daughter calls the wrong man daddy. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. The alarm clock's persistent beeping dragged Amara Johnson from a fitful sleep at 5:30 a.m. She reached over to silence it, her hand moving through the familiar darkness of her bedroom. The early February chill had seeped through the poorly insulated windows of the modest two-bedroom apartment she shared with her 12-year-old daughter, Zora. Amara pulled the worn comforter tighter around her shoulders, allowing herself just one more minute of warmth before facing the day. The heat had been turned down overnight to save on bills that were already stretching her budget to the breaking point. When she finally swung her feet onto the cold floor, Amara moved with purpose, sliding into her fuzzy slippers and wrapping herself in the threadbare robe that had been a Christmas gift from Zora 3 years ago. In the bathroom, she avoided the mirror at first, knowing the reflection would show the toll of sleepless nights and constant worry. At 38, Amara's face still held the beauty that had once graced magazine spreads, but now fine lines creased the corners of her eyes, and her shoulders carried an invisible weight. "Another day, another dollar," she whispered to herself, finally meeting her own gaze. "Actually, more like another $50 if I'm lucky." She splashed cold water on her face, the shock helping to clear the fog of too little sleep. As a paralegal at a small law firm, Amara's days were long and her pay modest, hardly enough to maintain the life she wanted to provide for Zora, especially since Marcus had conveniently forgotten to send the child support payments for the 3rd month in a row. Marcus Wilson. The name still stirred a complex mixture of emotions, anger, disappointment, and a residual ache for what might have been. 7 years ago, he had been her husband, a rising executive on his way up the corporate ladder. Now, he was the CEO of Wilson Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country, his face occasionally appearing in business magazines and local news, and he was a father who had effectively abandoned his daughter for the sake of his ambition. Amara busied herself in the kitchen, preparing breakfast and lunch for Zora. The refrigerator was sparsely stocked, but she managed to scramble eggs and toast the last 2 slices of bread. She packed a peanut butter sandwich, an apple, and a small bag of chips into Zora's lunchbox, making a mental note to go grocery shopping after work. The child support check that was supposed to arrive last week would have covered the groceries, the electric bill, and Zora's upcoming school field trip. Without it, Amara would have to dip into her emergency fund yet again. "Zora, time to get up, honey," Amara called, knocking gently on her daughter's bedroom door before pushing it open. Zora was already awake, sitting cross-legged on her bed, scrolling through her phone. "Morning, Mom," she said without looking up. "Phone down, breakfast's ready. You've got 20 minutes before we need to leave." Zora sighed dramatically but set the phone aside. "Is Dad coming to my science fair next week?" she asked, the question catching Amara off guard. I don't know, sweetie. Did you message him about it?" "Yeah, like a week ago. He never answered." Zora's voice carried a forced casualness that broke Amara's heart. "It's whatever. I don't even care." But Amara knew she did care. Desperately. "Let me text him again, okay? Maybe he just got busy." Busy. It was the excuse Marcus always gave. Too busy to attend parent-teacher conferences. Too busy to make it to Zora's birthday parties. Too busy to remember that he had a daughter who was growing up without him. As Zora got dressed, Amara sent a terse message to Marcus. "Zora's science fair is next Thursday at 6 p.m. She's asking if you'll be there." She didn't expect a reply, at least not right away. Marcus operated on his own timeline, deigning to respond when it suited him. The man who had once promised to love her forever now treated communication with his ex-wife and daughter as an inconvenient obligation. The drive to Zora's middle school was filled with the usual morning chatter, homework assignments, friend drama, and Zora's ongoing campaign for a newer phone. Everyone has the latest model, Mom. Amara listened attentively, cherishing these moments of normalcy amid the constant struggle to keep their lives afloat. "Have a great day, love you," Amara called as Zora hopped out of the car. "Love you too," Zora replied, already distracted by the sight of her friends waiting near the entrance. Amara watched until Zora disappeared into the building before driving to her own workplace, a small law firm specializing in family law. The irony wasn't lost on her, spending her days helping others navigate divorces and custody agreements while her own ex-husband flouted court orders with impunity. "Morning, Amara," greeted Rebecca, the receptionist, as Amara rushed in precisely at 8:30. "Mr. Harrington left a stack of files on your desk. Says they need to be processed by end of day." Amara suppressed a groan. Gregory Harrington was the senior partner and a demanding boss who seemed to believe that paralegals didn't need personal lives. "Thanks, Rebecca. Any messages?" "Just the usual. Oh, and Lisa called about happy hour on Friday. Said to remind you it's been 3 months since you joined them last." Guilt pinched at Amara. Her friends had been increasingly concerned about her isolation, but between work and Zora, there was precious little time for socializing, and even less money for drinks at the overpriced bars they frequented. "I'll call her back during lunch," Amara promised, knowing she would probably make an excuse again. At her desk, Amara found not only the files from Mr. Harrington, but also a pink message slip with Marcus's name on it. Her heart rate quickened as she picked it up. According to the note, he had called the office looking for her yesterday afternoon while she was in court. Before she could process what this might mean, her phone buzzed with a text message. "Marcus, I'll be at the science fair. We need to talk before then. Lunch today? Important." Amara stared at the screen, suspicion and curiosity warring within her. In 7 years since their divorce, Marcus had never once suggested meeting for lunch. Whatever he wanted to discuss, it couldn't be good. Amara's fingers hovered over her phone, uncertainty freezing her in place. After years of Marcus's indifference, this sudden interest set off warning bells. What could be so important that he needed to see her in person? Her first instinct was to refuse, to protect herself from whatever new disappointment he might bring. But curiosity won out. "Fine. 12:30 at Cafe Meridian," she texted back, choosing a place close to her office. At least if this meeting went sideways, she could make a quick escape. The morning crawled by in a blur of paperwork and client calls. Amara tried to focus on the divorce petitions and custody agreements that filled her inbox, but her mind kept returning to Marcus. The last time they'd had a real conversation was at Zora's elementary school graduation 2 years ago, a brief, tense exchange that had left Amara seething. Marcus had shown up late, spent most of the ceremony on his phone, and left immediately after taking a single photo with Zora. The hurt in her daughter's eyes had nearly driven Amara to cause a scene. At 12:15, Amara touched up her lipstick and smoothed her hair, then immediately felt annoyed with herself for caring about her appearance. This wasn't a date. It was a meeting with the man who had walked away from their family without a backward glance. She grabbed her purse and coat, told Rebecca she'd be back by 1:30, and stepped out into the brisk February air. Cafe Meridian was a small, upscale establishment that catered to the downtown business crowd. As Amara pushed through the door, the warm aroma of coffee and freshly baked bread enveloped her. She spotted Marcus immediately, sitting at a corner table, his attention focused on his phone. Some things never changed. He looked up as she approached, and for a moment, Amara was struck by how little he had aged. At 40, Marcus Wilson was still devastatingly handsome, his dark skin smooth, his closely cropped hair now featuring distinguished touches of gray at the temples. Success agreed with him, evident in his tailored suit and the confident set of his shoulders. A far cry from the ambitious but struggling young executive she had married 15 years ago. "Amara," he said, standing as she reached the table. "Thank you for coming." His voice was deeper than she remembered, Or perhaps it was just the formal tone he now used with her, so different from the warm intimacy they once shared. Amara nodded coolly, taking the seat across from him. "You said it was important." A waiter appeared before Marcus could respond, and they ordered quickly. A Caesar salad for Amara, a steak sandwich for Marcus. When they were alone again, an awkward silence settled between them. "You look well," Marcus offered finally, his eyes taking in her appearance with an appraising glance that made Amara's skin prickle. "What do you want, Marcus?" she asked, unwilling to engage in pleasantries. "And why haven't you been sending the child support payments? Zora's field trip is coming up, and I had to take money from my savings again." Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. "I apologize for that. There was an issue with the automatic transfers. I've resolved it, and you should receive the back payments by tomorrow. With interest." Amara raised an eyebrow. "An issue that's lasted 3 months? I've been distracted. The company's expansion into international markets has consumed all my attention." He leaned forward, his expression earnest. "But that's actually related to why I wanted to speak with you." Their food arrived, momentarily pausing the conversation. Amara picked at her salad, her appetite diminished by the tension. "Wilson Innovations is about to announce a major new initiative," Marcus continued after the waiter departed. "We're launching a foundation focused on supporting underprivileged youth in STEM education. It's been my passion project for the past year." "That's commendable," Amara said cautiously, unsure where this was heading. "The foundation launch coincides with a profile Fortune magazine is doing on me next month. They want to include personal aspects, not just business." Marcus paused, taking a sip of water. "They've asked about my family." Understanding dawned, and Amara felt a cold anger spreading through her chest. "So after 7 years of minimal involvement in Zora's life, you suddenly want to play the devoted father because it makes for a good PR story?" "It's not like that," Marcus protested, though the flicker in his eyes told Amara she'd hit the mark. "I've been reflecting on my priorities lately. I've missed too much of Zora's childhood already. And this revelation just happens to coincide with a magazine profile that could boost your company's image?" Amara set down her fork, appetite gone entirely. "Don't insult my intelligence, Marcus," he sighed, running a hand over his face. "Fine. Yes, the timing is related to the profile, but that doesn't mean my desire to reconnect with Zora isn't genuine. I've made mistakes, Amara. Serious ones. I want to start making amends." Amara studied him, searching for sincerity in his expression. There was something there. Regret, perhaps, or at least awareness of his failings, but she couldn't trust it. Marcus had always been persuasive. It was part of what made him so successful in business. "What exactly are you asking for?" she said finally. "I'd like to spend more time with Zora. Regular visits, not just special occasions. I want to be part of her life again." He hesitated, then added, "And I'd appreciate if you could help facilitate that. Make it easier for her to welcome me back." Amara laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You want me to smooth things over? Convince our daughter that her absent father suddenly cares about her?" She shook her head. "That's not my job, Marcus. You created this situation. You fix it." "I know I don't deserve your help," he admitted, "but I'm asking for Zora's sake, not mine. She needs her father. She needed her father 7 years ago when you missed her dance recitals. She needed her father 5 years ago when she broke her arm and cried for you in the emergency room. She needed her father every birthday, every Christmas, every ordinary Tuesday when you were too busy building your empire to call her." Amara's voice trembled with suppressed emotion. "Don't talk to me about what Zora needs." Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. "You're right. I've failed her consistently, but I want to do better now. Is that so wrong?" Amara sighed, suddenly exhausted. The anger that had sustained her for years in Marcus's absence felt heavy now, a burden she was tired of carrying. "No, it's not wrong to want to do better. But forgiveness has to be earned, Marcus. Zora's not a prop for your corporate image, and neither am I. I understand that. He reached across the table as if to touch her hand, then thought better of it. I'll be at the science fair next week as I promised. No photographers, no agenda, just a father supporting his daughter. Amara wanted to believe him, for Zora's sake. Her daughter deserved a father who cared, even if he was 7 years late. We'll see. As they finished their meal in awkward silence, Amara's phone buzzed with a text from the school. Her heart dropped as she read the message. I have to go, she said, gathering her things hurriedly. Zora's in the nurse's office. She got into an altercation with another student. Marcus frowned, concern crossing his features. Is she okay? What happened? I don't know yet. This isn't like her. Amara stood, anxiety replacing her earlier irritation. I need to get to the school. I'll come with you, Marcus said, already signaling for the check. Amara hesitated, then nodded curtly. Whatever his motives, Marcus was still Zora's father. And right now, that was what mattered. The drive to Westlake Middle School was tense, with Marcus following in his sleek black Tesla while Amara navigated the familiar route in her aging Honda. Her mind raced with possibilities. Zora had never been in trouble at school before. She was a straight-A student, quiet and well-behaved to the point that teachers sometimes worried she was too reserved. An altercation seemed completely out of character. When they arrived at the school, Marcus pulled into the visitor spot next to Amara's car, his vehicle making hers look even more worn by comparison. She felt a flicker of resentment at the visible reminder of their disparate circumstances, but pushed it aside. Zora was the priority now. You don't have to come in, Amara said as they walked toward the entrance. I can handle this. I want to be here, Marcus replied firmly. She's my daughter too. The words stung, not because they weren't true, but because Marcus had so rarely acted like they were. Amara said nothing, just pushed through the front doors and headed for the main office. The school secretary looked up in surprise when both parents entered. Mrs. Johnson, we weren't expecting… Oh, and Mr. Wilson. I'll let Principal Gardner know you're both here. They were ushered into the principal's office, where they found Zora sitting in a chair, arms crossed defensively, a sullen expression on her face. Her dark, curly hair, usually neatly pulled back, was disheveled, and there was a smudge of dirt on her Navy school uniform. When she saw her father, her eyes widened in shock. Dad? What are you doing here? Before Marcus could answer, Principal Gardner, a stern woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair, addressed them. Thank you for coming so quickly, Mrs. Johnson. Mr. Wilson, this is unexpected but welcome. What happened? Amara asked, her eyes fixed on Zora, who was now staring at the floor. Zora was involved in a physical altercation with another student during lunch period, Principal Gardner explained. According to witnesses, she pushed Ella Stevens after Ella made some inappropriate comments. She said I was only half black and that's why I talk white, Zora burst out, her voice tight with suppressed tears. And then she said I make up stories about my dad being a CEO because everyone knows black dads don't stick around. Amara felt as if she'd been slapped. Beside her, Marcus had gone completely still. I see, Principal Gardner said carefully. While I understand that's extremely hurtful, Zora, physical violence is never the answer. Ella has been disciplined for her comments which violate our anti-bullying policy, but I'm afraid I still have to give you detention for pushing her. That's not fair, Marcus said, his voice quiet but carrying an authority that filled the room. My daughter was defending herself against racist bullying. Principal Gardner blinked, clearly not accustomed to being challenged. Mr. Wilson, I understand your concern, but our zero-tolerance policy on physical aggression should be applied with some nuance, Marcus interrupted smoothly. I'd hate to think that Westlake Middle School disciplines victims of racial harassment with the same severity as the instigators. That would reflect poorly on the institution, don't you think? The subtle threat in his tone was unmistakable. Principal Gardner's expression tightened. Perhaps we could reduce the punishment to a warning given the circumstances. I think that would be appropriate, Marcus agreed with a nod. And I'd like to discuss what measures the school is taking to address the underlying issue of racial insensitivity among the student body. Amara watched the exchange with mixed emotions. Part of her was grateful for Marcus's intervention. He was using his privilege and position to protect Zora in a way Amara might not have been able to, but another part resented that he could swoop in after years of absence and play the hero so effortlessly. We can schedule a separate meeting to discuss that, Principal Gardner conceded. For now, Zora, you're free to return to class with a warning. Please come directly to me if you experience any further issues with Ella or any other student. Zora nodded, finally looking up. Her eyes were dry now, but Amara could see the hurt lingering in them. Can I talk to my parents first? Of course, take a few minutes. Principal Gardner stood, clearly eager to end the uncomfortable meeting. I'll be in the outer office when you're ready to go back to class. When the door closed behind her, silence fell. Zora looked from Amara to Marcus, confusion evident in her expression. How did you both get here so fast? And together? Your father and I were having lunch when I got the text from the school, Amara explained. We were discussing your science fair next week. You're really coming? Zora asked Marcus, hope flickering across her face despite her obvious attempt to sound indifferent. I wouldn't miss it, Marcus promised, moving to kneel beside Zora's chair. And I'm sorry about what that girl said to you. She was wrong on all counts, but especially about me not caring. I know I haven't been around much, and that's on me, not you. But I'm going to do better. Zora's lower lip trembled slightly. You always say that. The simple truth of her statement hit both parents hard. Marcus winced visibly. I know, but this time I mean it. In fact, I was just telling your mom that I want to spend more time with you. Regular visits, not just special occasions. Zora looked to Amara for confirmation. Mom? Amara forced a smile. We're still working out the details, but yes, your dad wants to be more involved. Starting with taking you both to dinner tonight, Marcus added, catching Amara off guard. If that's okay with your mom, of course. Amara wanted to refuse. This was moving too fast and she didn't trust Marcus's sudden change of heart. But the hopeful look on Zora's face made it impossible to say no. Sure, dinner would be fine. Awesome! Zora's entire demeanor transformed, the incident with Ella seemingly forgotten in her excitement. Can we go to Luciano's? They have the best pasta. Anywhere you want, Marcus agreed with a smile that reminded Amara painfully of the man she had fallen in love with years ago. After Zora returned to class, Amara and Marcus walked back to their cars in silence. At the parking lot, Amara turned to him, her expression serious. Don't make promises you can't keep, Marcus. Not to her. She's been disappointed enough. I meant what I said in there, he insisted. I want to be part of her life again. A real part. Why now? Amara pressed. And don't give me that line about the foundation and reflecting on your priorities. What really changed? Marcus looked away, his jaw tightening. For a moment, Amara thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sighed deeply. My father died 3 weeks ago. The news caught Amara by surprise. Harold Wilson had been a distant figure even when she and Marcus were married, a self-made businessman who had expected his son to follow in his footsteps and had little time for family sentiments. I'm sorry, she said automatically, though she had never been close to her former father-in-law. Don't be. He was not a good man or a good father. Marcus met her eyes again. At the funeral, I realized I was becoming him, building an empire at the expense of relationships that matter, leaving behind a legacy of success but no real connections. He paused. I don't want Zora to one day stand at my funeral feeling nothing but relief that I'm gone. The raw honesty in his voice gave Amara pause. This didn't sound like the calculated move of a man simply seeking good PR. I understand that. but you need to understand that rebuilding trust takes time. Zora's excited now, but if you disappear again when things get challenging or inconvenient, the damage will be worse than before. I know. Marcus hesitated, then added, I'll pick you both up at 7 for dinner. Amara nodded, still wary but willing to give him a chance, for Zora's sake. We'll be ready. Dinner at Luciano's was a surreal experience. As they were escorted to their table, Amara couldn't help but notice the stares and whispers from other diners who recognized Marcus. A few even approached for handshakes or quick exchanges, which Marcus handled with practiced charm before returning his attention to Zora, who watched these interactions with undisguised pride. The restaurant was far more upscale than Amara's usual haunts, all exposed brick, soft lighting, and prices that made her wince internally. When she excused herself to the restroom and checked her phone, she found a notification that the back payment of child support had indeed been deposited in her account, with a substantial interest payment added. The gesture should have brought relief, but instead, it left a sour taste in her mouth. Money had never been what she wanted from Marcus. She wanted him to be present for their daughter. When she returned to the table, Zora was animatedly telling Marcus about her science fair project, a study on the effects of different types of music on plant growth. Marcus was leaning forward, asking insightful questions that showed he was genuinely engaged. It was the kind of father-daughter interaction Amara had once imagined would be commonplace in their family. Mom, Dad says I should consider adding a control group that gets no music at all, Zora announced as Amara slid back into her seat. And he thinks I should use seedlings instead of mature plants so the growth differences are more obvious. That's a great suggestion, Amara agreed, noting the way Zora beamed at the simple acknowledgement that her parents were on the same page. It had been so long since they'd functioned as a unified parental unit that even this small moment felt significant. The dinner progressed smoothly, the conversation flowing more easily than Amara had anticipated. Marcus shared carefully edited stories about his business travels that made Zora laugh, while Amara contributed updates about school events and Zora's accomplishments. To an outside observer, they might have looked like any normal family enjoying a meal together. But Amara wasn't fooled. She caught the calculated way Marcus occasionally glanced around the restaurant, making sure he was seen with his family. She noticed how he subtly directed the conversation toward topics that painted him in a favorable light. And most concerningly, she saw how Zora was soaking it all in, her eyes shining with admiration for the father who had suddenly decided she was worth his time. By the time dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate cake that Zora insisted on sharing with both parents, Amara's pleasant facade was wearing thin. The emotional labor of maintaining civility with the man who had walked out on them was exhausting. So, what do you think about spending this Saturday with me? Marcus asked Zora as they finished the cake. I could show you my office, introduce you to my team. Maybe we could check out that new science museum exhibit you mentioned. Zora's eyes lit up. For real? That would be awesome. She turned to Amara. Can I, Mom? Please? Amara hesitated. It was moving too fast. One dinner and Marcus was already planning solo outings, but Zora's eager expression made it difficult to refuse. I suppose that would be okay, as long as you're back by dinner time. Actually, Marcus interjected smoothly, I was thinking she might stay overnight. My new place has a guest room that's perfect, and we could make a full weekend of it. I'd have her back Sunday afternoon. The presumption irritated Amara. Marcus, we should discuss this privately before— Come on, Mom, Zora pleaded. It's just one night, and I want to see Dad's place. Amara felt cornered. Refusing would make her the villain in Zora's eyes, but agreeing felt like surrendering too much, too quickly. Let me think about it, she said finally. We can decide later this week. Disappointment flashed across both Zora's and Marcus's faces, but neither pushed the issue further. As they left the restaurant, Marcus handed the valet his ticket and offered to drive them home. We're fine in my car, Amara said quickly, not wanting to extend the evening. At least let me follow you. Make sure you get home safely, Marcus insisted. The city hasn't gotten any more dangerous in the years you've been absent, Amara replied, the edge in her voice unmistakable. We managed just fine on our own. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue but thought better of it. Instead, he knelt to give Zora a hug. I had a great time tonight, Princess. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? Promise? Zora asked, vulnerability creeping into her voice. Absolute promise, Marcus assured her, kissing the top of her head. The drive home was quiet, with Zora lost in thought. Amara kept glancing at her daughter in the rearview mirror, trying to gauge her emotional state. Finally, as they neared their apartment, Zora broke the silence. Why can't I stay at Dad's this weekend? She asked, her tone carefully neutral. Amara sighed. It's not that you can't, Zora. It's just that your father has been absent for a long time, and suddenly he wants overnight visits. I think we should take things more slowly. But what if he changes his mind again? What if this is my only chance? The question was so honest, so fearful, that it made Amara's chest ache. Oh, honey. She pulled into their parking spot and turned to face her daughter. Is that what you're worried about? That if we don't jump at every opportunity, he'll disappear again? Zora shrugged, but her eyes betrayed her concern. Maybe. He's really busy and important, and I don't want to mess it up. Listen to me. Amara reached back to take Zora's hand. If your father truly wants to be part of your life, he'll make time for you whether it's this weekend or next month. And you could never mess it up. You're perfect, just as you are. If he doesn't see that, it's his loss, not yours. Zora nodded, but Amara could tell she wasn't entirely convinced. As they climbed the stairs to their apartment, Amara's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Thank you for tonight. I meant what I said about wanting to be more involved. Please consider the weekend visit. It would mean a lot to both of us. Inside the apartment, Zora headed straight for her room, claiming homework, but clearly wanting space to process the evening's events. Amara sank onto the couch, emotionally drained. She knew she should be happy that Marcus was finally showing interest in their daughter's life, but she couldn't shake her suspicion about his motives. The child support payment lingered in her mind. It was a significant sum, enough to ease her financial stress considerably, but it felt like a transaction, as if Marcus were buying his way back into their lives. Her phone buzzed again. Lisa this time. Hey stranger, missed you at happy hour again. Everything okay? Amara stared at the message, unsure how to even begin explaining the day's events. How could she tell her friends that her ex-husband had suddenly reappeared, charming and contrite, ready to play father after 7 years of neglect? They would tell her to be cautious, to protect Zora from potential disappointment. Advice she already knew she should follow. But seeing the joy on Zora's face tonight had complicated things. Could she really stand in the way of her daughter building a relationship with her father, even if his intentions weren't entirely pure? And what if Marcus was sincere? What if his father's death had genuinely changed his perspective? Amara closed her eyes, remembering the early days of their marriage. Marcus had been ambitious even then, but he'd also been loving, present. They'd planned their family with such care, such hope. When had his drive for success overtaken everything else? When had they become expendable to his grand vision? From Zora's room came the sound of laughter. She was probably texting her friends about dinner with her CEO father. The sound both warmed and worried Amara. Her daughter was so eager for Marcus's attention, so vulnerable to the hurt he could inflict if he disappeared again. One step at a time, Amara murmured to herself. That was the only way forward. Cautious optimism balanced with protective vigilance. She picked up her phone and texted Marcus back. We can try one day this Saturday. No overnight yet. I'll drop her off at 9 a.m. and pick her up at 7 p.m. His response came almost immediately. Thank you, Amara. You won't regret it. I promise. Amara set the phone down without replying. Promises from Marcus Wilson had meant little in the past. This time she would wait and see if his actions matched his words. The rest of the week passed in a blur of routine, punctuated by Zora's increasing excitement about Saturday. Marcus called her every evening as promised, their conversations growing longer each time. Amara tried not to eavesdrop, but she couldn't help overhearing snippets, discussions about Zora's interests, school challenges, and future aspirations. To her surprise, Marcus seemed genuinely engaged, asking thoughtful questions and offering advice that Amara had to admit was sound. By Friday night, Zora was practically vibrating with anticipation as she meticulously packed a backpack for the next day. Outfit changes, her favorite book, even her special leave-in conditioner for her curls. "Dad said we might go swimming at his building's pool," she explained when Amara questioned the swimsuit she was packing. "And then maybe to dinner at this really cool restaurant where they cook right at your table." "Sounds like you have a busy day planned," Amara replied, helping fold a t-shirt. "Just remember, I'm picking you up at 7, no extensions." Zora rolled her eyes. "Yes, Mom, I know. Dad already said he'd have me ready on time." The casual reference to Marcus as Dad, not Father or his first name as Zora had taken to calling him in recent years, wasn't lost on Amara. Already his position in their daughter's life was being restored, the wounds of his absence beginning to heal. Amara wanted to feel happy about this development, but caution tempered her response. One good week didn't erase 7 years of neglect. When Saturday morning arrived, Zora was up and dressed by 7:30 a.m., though they weren't leaving until 8:45. She paced the small apartment, checking her phone constantly, as if afraid Marcus might cancel at the last minute. Amara watched her with a mixture of amusement and concern. "Honey, relax. Your father will be there." "I know," Zora said unconvincingly. "I just don't want to be late." The drive to Marcus's downtown condominium was mostly silent, with Zora staring out the window, lost in thought. When they pulled up to the gleaming high-rise, her eyes widened. "Dad lives here? It's like a palace." Amara suppressed a sigh. The contrast between their modest apartment and Marcus's luxury building couldn't have been more stark. "It's just a building, Zora. What matters is the time you spend together, not where he lives." "I know, but still. It's so cool." Zora was already unbuckling her seatbelt, eager to get inside. "Wait," Amara said, placing a hand on her daughter's arm. "Remember what we talked about. If anything makes you uncomfortable, or if you want to come home early for any reason, just call me. I can be here in 20 minutes. Zora nodded impatiently. "I'll be fine, Mom. Dad's not some stranger." That was precisely the problem, Amara thought. Marcus wasn't a stranger, but he also wasn't the reliable, present father Zora deserved. Still, she forced a smile. "Have fun then. I'll see you at 7. As they approached the entrance, Marcus emerged from the lobby, dressed casually in designer jeans and a crisp button-down shirt. He greeted Zora with a warm hug, then nodded politely to Amara. "Thanks for bringing her. We've got a full day planned." "Just have her ready at 7, Amara reminded him. "And make sure she eats something substantial, not just junk food." "Yes, ma'am," Marcus replied with a hint of amusement that irked Amara. Parenting wasn't a joke or a temporary role he could step into when convenient. Zora gave Amara a quick hug goodbye, then practically bounced to Marcus's side, already chattering about the day ahead. Amara watched them disappear into the building, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. It was just one day, she reminded herself. What could possibly go wrong? The hours crawled by as Amara tried to distract herself with chores and errands. She deep-cleaned the apartment, grocery shopped, and even treated herself to a rare manicure. But her thoughts kept returning to Zora and Marcus. Were they having a good time? Was Marcus being attentive or checking his phone every 5 minutes? Was Zora asking about his long absence, and if so, what was he telling her? Around noon, Zora texted a selfie of herself and Marcus at his office, both grinning widely with the message, "Dad's office is amazing. His desk is bigger than our dining table." Amara stared at the photo, noting the genuine happiness in Zora's expression and the proprietary way Marcus had his arm around her shoulders. They looked like they belonged together, father and daughter, connected by blood and now by shared experiences that Amara wasn't part of. The thought stung more than she expected. At 3:30, another update came through. A photo of Zora in the Science Museum, standing next to an interactive display on gravity with the caption, "Learning so much, Dad knew all about centrifugal force." By 6:45, Amara was waiting in the parking lot of Marcus's building, watching the entrance anxiously. At 7:05, with no sign of them, she texted Zora, "I'm outside. Where are you?" The reply came from Marcus's phone. "Running a few minutes late. Traffic from the restaurant was heavier than expected. Be down in 10. Irritation flared in Amara's chest. She had been explicit about the pickup time, and Marcus's first solo outing with Zora was already testing boundaries. When they finally emerged at 7:18, Zora was chattering animatedly, her arms full of shopping bags. Marcus followed with a fond smile, carrying what appeared to be a large, wrapped gift. "Sorry we're late," he said as they approached. "We lost track of time at the Tesla showroom." Zora was fascinated by the electric engine display. "We went shopping after the museum," Zora announced breathlessly, holding up her bags. "Dad got me new clothes for school and this awesome science kit with a real microscope." "That's very generous," Amara said, eyeing the haul with dismay. She couldn't compete with this level of extravagance, and she wasn't sure she wanted to. Material gifts were an easy substitute for genuine parenting. "And this is for later," Marcus added, handing Zora the wrapped package. "For your science fair project. Open it when you get home." Amara bit back a comment about spoiling and focused on getting Zora to the car. "Did you have a good time, honey?" "The best!" Zora exclaimed, buckling herself in. "Dad's building has a movie theater just for the residents, and his apartment has floor-to-ceiling windows and you can see the whole city. And we had lunch at his company cafeteria where everything is free and all his employees were so nice to me." As Zora continued her excited recounting, Amara caught Marcus watching them with a satisfied expression. "Same time next Saturday?" he asked when Zora paused for breath. "I thought we could try that overnight visit we discussed." Before Amara could respond, Zora jumped in. "Yes, please, Mom. Dad said I could help him make Sunday brunch. He has this huge kitchen with an island and everything." Trapped again, Amara thought. She couldn't refuse without disappointing Zora and looking like the unreasonable parent. "We'll see," she said non-committally. "Let's talk about it during the week." Marcus nodded, accepting the non-answer graciously. "I had a wonderful time, Zora. Thanks for spending the day with your old dad." He leaned in to kiss her cheek, then straightened and extended a hand to Amara. "Thank you for allowing this." The formality of the gesture emphasized the distance between them now. No longer partners, barely even co-parents, just two adults connected by a child they both loved in their own ways. On the drive home, Zora couldn't stop talking about her day, each detail revealing a world of privilege and access that was entirely foreign to their usual life. The shopping trip alone must have cost more than Amara earned in a week, and the casual mentions of expensive restaurants and exclusive amenities highlighted the vast disparity in resources. "Can I open my present now?" Zora asked as they entered their apartment. "Go ahead," Amara said, setting down her purse and watching as Zora tore into the wrapping paper. Inside was a high-end tablet, the latest model, sleek and expensive. "Oh my God!" Zora squealed. "Dad said I could use this for my science fair project to record data and make graphs. It has all these special apps for scientific research." Amara's heart sank. She had been saving for months to buy Zora a basic laptop for her upcoming birthday, a practical necessity for a middle schooler with increasing homework demands. Now Marcus had swooped in with something far more impressive, making her planned gift seem inadequate by comparison. "That's a very expensive gift, Zora," she said carefully. "We should talk about appropriate boundaries for presents from your father." Zora's expression fell. "Why? Don't you want me to have nice things?" "Of course I do. But there's a difference between nice things and excessive gifts. I'm concerned your father is trying to buy your affection rather than earning it through consistent presents." "That's not fair," Zora protested, clutching the tablet protectively. "Dad just wants me to have the best. He said he has a lot of making up to do." Amara sighed, recognizing a losing battle. "We'll talk more about this tomorrow. It's getting late, and you've had a big day. Why don't you get ready for bed?" As Zora disappeared into her room, Amara's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Hope I didn't overstep with the tablet, just wanted to support her interest in science. Let me know about next weekend. I'd really like to have her overnight." Amara stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Part of her wanted to establish firm boundaries about expensive gifts and gradual reintegration into Zora's life. But another part recognized that Marcus was Zora's father, and if he was genuinely trying to rebuild their relationship, limiting their time together might do more harm than good. The question that kept nagging at her was whether his interest was sincere or merely convenient timing for his public image campaign, and if it was the latter, how would Zora handle the inevitable disappointment when his attention waned again? The science fair arrived on Thursday evening, transforming Westlake Middle School's gymnasium into a showcase of student projects. Amara helped Zora set up her display, an impressive arrangement of potted seedlings that had been exposed to different music genres, complete with detailed charts showing growth patterns and a digital presentation on the new tablet. The contrast between Zora's polished project and some of the more modest displays around them wasn't lost on Amara. "Do you think Dad will really come?" Zora asked for the third time, nervously adjusting the position of her plants. "He promised he would," Amara reminded her, though privately she wondered the same thing. Despite Marcus's daily calls to Zora and apparent enthusiasm about the science fair, Amara couldn't help worrying that something more important would come up at the last minute. As the gymnasium filled with parents and students, Amara noticed Zora's increasingly anxious glances toward the entrance. When Principal Gardner began her welcoming remarks at 6:10 p.m. with no sign of Marcus, Amara saw her daughter's shoulders slump slightly. Then, just as the principal was inviting everyone to begin viewing the projects, the gymnasium doors opened and Marcus strode in, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, carrying a bouquet of flowers. Heads turned as people recognized the local business celebrity. Marcus seemed oblivious to the attention, his focus entirely on scanning the room for Zora. When he spotted them, his face broke into a genuine smile that startled Amara with its warmth. Zora's expression transformed from disappointment to elation as she waved eagerly. "Sorry I'm late," Marcus said as he reached them, handing the flowers to Zora. "Board meeting ran over and then traffic was a nightmare." "You made it!" Zora exclaimed, hugging him tightly. "I was worried you wouldn't come." A flash of guilt crossed Marcus's face. "I promised, didn't I? Wild horses couldn't have kept me away." He turned to the display. "Now, show me everything about this amazing project." For the next hour, Marcus gave Zora his undivided attention as she explained her methodology and findings. He asked insightful questions, offered thoughtful praise, and beamed with pride when one of the judges spent extra time at their station. Amara watched from a slight distance, allowing them this moment together while marveling at the transformation in Marcus. Gone was the distracted, perpetually busy executive who had barely engaged with family events in the past. In his place was an attentive, encouraging father who seemed genuinely invested in his daughter's accomplishments. "Ms. Johnson?" A woman's voice interrupted Amara's observations. She turned to find a stylishly dressed woman with a press badge extending her hand. "I'm Vanessa Chen from Fortune magazine. I've been working on a profile of Marcus Wilson. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions about him as a father?" Amara blinked in surprise. "I'm not sure I'm the right person to—" "Oh, but you are," Vanessa insisted with a practiced smile. The article explores Marcus's journey as an entrepreneur and a family man. His relationship with his daughter is a key element of the story. So this was why Marcus had suddenly reappeared in their lives. Amara glanced over at Marcus and Zora, still engrossed in conversation with one of the science fair judges. Had this entire reconciliation been orchestrated for a magazine feature? "Ms. Chen, I appreciate your interest, but I don't think now is the appropriate time," Amara said firmly. "This evening is about my daughter's academic achievement, not her father's public image." Vanessa's smile never faltered, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "Of course, I understand completely. Perhaps we could schedule a time to chat later? Marcus speaks so highly of your co-parenting relationship." The irony was almost laughable. Co-parenting implied consistent involvement from both parents, not one parent handling all responsibilities while the other made occasional appearances when convenient. "I'll think about it," Amara replied non-committally. "If you'll excuse me, I should get back to my daughter." As she walked away, Amara noticed another woman approaching Marcus and Zora, tall, blonde, and impeccably dressed in a designer outfit that probably cost more than Amara's monthly rent. The woman slipped her arm through Marcus's with casual intimacy, smiling warmly at Zora. "You must be the famous Zora," the woman was saying as Amara drew near. "Your father talks about you constantly. I'm Alexis." Zora looked between the woman and her father with obvious confusion. Hi. Alexis is a friend of mine," Marcus explained, looking uncharacteristically uncomfortable. "She wanted to come support you tonight." "I wouldn't have missed it," Alexis gushed, still smiling. "Your project is incredible. Marcus told me you inherited his scientific mind." An awkward silence fell as Amara joined the group. Marcus cleared his throat. "Amara, this is Alexis Monroe. Alexis, this is Zora's mother, Amara Johnson." "So lovely to finally meet you," Alexis said, extending a manicured hand. "Marcus has told me so much about you both." Amara shook the offered hand briefly, noting the massive diamond ring on Alexis's right hand. "Funny, he hasn't mentioned you at all." Another uncomfortable silence descended, broken only when the principal announced that the judges would be making their final deliberations. Zora looked between the adults uncertainly, clearly sensing the tension but unsure of its source. "I'm going to go check out Jamal's project," she said, backing away. "He did something with magnetic fields." As soon as Zora was out of earshot, Amara turned to Marcus. "A heads up would have been nice. Who exactly is Alexis to you?" "We've been seeing each other for about 6 months, Marcus admitted. "It's serious enough that I thought she should meet Zora, but I was planning to introduce them more gradually. Yet here she is, at a school event, calling herself your girlfriend to our daughter who's just getting used to having you back in her life." Amara kept her voice low but couldn't disguise her irritation. "I insisted on coming," Alexis interjected. "Marcus has been so excited about reconnecting with Zora, and I wanted to be supportive. I hope I haven't overstepped." But she had overstepped, and from the satisfied glint in her eye, Amara suspected she knew it. This wasn't about supporting Zora. It was about establishing her position in Marcus's life, and by extension, in Zora's. "Marcus, could I speak with you privately for a moment?" Amara asked, already moving toward a quieter corner of the gymnasium. Once they were alone, she didn't mince words. "What are you doing? First the fortune reporter, now your girlfriend. Is this evening about Zora at all, or is it just a photo opportunity for your new family man image?" Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. "That's not fair, Amara. I came here for Zora. Vanessa showed up on her own. I didn't invite her. And yes, I should have warned you about Alexis, but she really did want to meet Zora." "Because she's auditioning for the role of stepmother?" Amara challenged. "Zora is not a prop in your relationship, Marcus. She's a vulnerable child who's just beginning to trust you again." "I know that," Marcus insisted, "and I'm trying to do right by her. But Alexis is part of my life now, and eventually, she and Zora will need to develop their own relationship. Eventually, yes, but not tonight, at an important school event with no preparation. Amara shook her head in frustration. This is exactly why I've been cautious about you jumping back into Zora's life. You don't think about the impact your decisions have on her. Before Marcus could respond, they were interrupted by excited applause. The judges were announcing the winners, and Zora's name had just been called for second place. Her face lit up with joy as she made her way to the front to receive her certificate. "We'll finish this conversation later," Amara said, moving to join the audience. "Right now, let's focus on celebrating Zora's achievement." Marcus nodded, following her back to where Alexis waited. The three adults stood awkwardly side by side, applauding as Zora accepted her award. When she returned, clutching her certificate proudly, she was immediately enveloped in a hug from Alexis. "Congratulations, sweetheart! Second place is amazing!" Alexis exclaimed. "We should celebrate. How about ice cream? My treat." Zora looked to Amara uncertainly. "Can we, Mom?" Trapped again in the role of potential spoilsport, Amara hesitated. "It's a school night, Zora, and we have your weekend visit with your father to plan for." "Oh, about that," Marcus interjected. "I was thinking Zora could stay with me and Alexis. We've already set up the guest room and Alexis makes fantastic pancakes on Sunday mornings." "Wait, you live together?" Zora asked, looking between her father and Alexis with wide eyes. "For the past 2 months," Alexis confirmed with a smile. "Your dad's place is so big it made sense for me to move in. And now we'll have space for you whenever you visit." Amara watched her daughter's expression shift from confusion to a forced enthusiasm that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Cool," Zora said, her voice smaller than before. "That sounds nice." The drive home was unusually quiet. Zora stared out the window, her certificate forgotten on her lap. When they reached their apartment, she headed straight to her room, mumbling something about homework. Amara followed, knocking gently on the partially open door. "Want to talk about it?" Zora was sitting on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. "Did you know Dad had a girlfriend? That they lived together?" "No, honey. He never mentioned her to me." Amara sat beside her daughter. "How do you feel about it?" Zora shrugged, trying to appear indifferent, but Amara could see the hurt in her eyes. "It's fine, I guess. Dad can date whoever he wants." But, Zora's voice wavered slightly. "I thought he came back because he missed me. But maybe he just needs me for his perfect family picture with Alexis." The perceptiveness of her daughter's observation caught Amara off guard. "What makes you say that?" "The way he introduced me to all his work friends, the photographer who kept taking pictures of us. And did you see how Alexis kept calling me sweetheart and hugging me? It was weird." Zora picked at a loose thread on her bedspread. "It's like they're playing house, and they need a kid to complete the set." Amara's heart ached for her daughter. Despite her youth, Zora had an uncanny ability to detect inauthenticity, a skill honed, perhaps, by years of disappointment from her father. "Do you still want to stay with them this weekend?" Amara asked gently. Zora considered the question for a long moment. "I think so. I want to see Dad's place again. And maybe Alexis isn't so bad when you get to know her." She hesitated. "But can I call you if I want to come home early?" "Anytime, day or night," Amara promised, pulling her daughter into a hug. "I'm always here for you, no matter what." As Zora settled in to finish her homework, Amara's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "I should have told you about Alexis. I'm sorry, but she really is excited to get to know Zora. Can we still do the overnight visit?" Amara sighed, typing back, "It's Zora's decision, and she wants to try. But Marcus, she's perceptive. She can tell when she's being used as a prop. Be honest with her about your intentions, or you'll lose her trust for good." His response came quickly. "I'm not using her as a prop. I genuinely want to be part of her life again." Amara didn't reply. Only time would reveal the truth of his intentions and she could only hope that Zora wouldn't be hurt in the process of discovering it. By Saturday morning, Zora's enthusiasm for the overnight visit had dampened considerably. She packed slowly, her earlier excitement replaced by a quiet thoughtfulness that concerned Amara. "We can cancel if you want," Amara offered as she helped fold a sweater. "I can tell your father you're not feeling well." Zora shook her head. "No, I want to go, She trailed off, searching for words. "I thought it would be just me and Dad. Now it's like I have to impress his girlfriend too." "You don't have to impress anyone," Amara said firmly. "Just be yourself. If they can't appreciate how amazing you are exactly as you are, that's their loss." Zora smiled weakly. "Thanks, Mom." She zipped her overnight bag with finality. "I'll be fine, and I'll call if I need you." The drive to Marcus's condominium was tense. Amara tried to initiate conversation, but Zora responded with monosyllables, her gaze fixed out the window. When they arrived, Marcus was waiting in the lobby alone, a small mercy for which Amara was grateful. "Hey, princess," he greeted Zora with a hug. "I've got the whole weekend planned. Wait until you see what we're doing this afternoon." Zora managed a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sounds good, Dad." Amara pulled Marcus aside while Zora examined a large sculpture in the lobby. "Where's Alexis?" "She's upstairs getting things ready. She wanted to give us some space for the drop-off." Marcus looked uncomfortable. "Look, I know Thursday night was awkward, but Alexis really does want to be part of Zora's life. She's making a special dinner tonight." "Just remember what I said," Amara warned. "Zora needs to feel like she matters to you as an individual, not as an accessory to your relationship with Alexis." Marcus's expression hardened slightly. "I know how to parent my own daughter, Amara." "Do you? Because for the past 7 years, I've been doing it alone." The words slipped out before she could stop them, sharper than intended. A flash of hurt crossed Marcus's face, quickly replaced by a controlled neutrality that Amara recognized from their divorce proceedings. "I'm trying to make up for that now. I wish you could see that." Before she could respond, Zora rejoined them. "Ready when you are, Dad." Amara knelt to hug her daughter goodbye. "Have fun, sweetheart. Call me if you need anything." "I will." Zora clung to her for a moment longer than usual, then pulled away with forced brightness. "See you tomorrow, Mom." As Amara watched them disappear into the elevator, a sense of foreboding settled over her. Something about the situation felt wrong, but she couldn't articulate exactly what. Marcus seemed genuinely eager to spend time with Zora, yet the hasty introduction of Alexis and the Fortune magazine reporter's presence at the science fair suggested ulterior motives that troubled her. Back at home, Amara tried to distract herself with work and household chores, but her thoughts kept returning to Zora. Was she having a good time? Was Alexis being kind to her? Was Marcus giving her the attention she craved, or was he constantly checking his phone for work messages as he'd done throughout their marriage? Around noon, a text from Zora arrived with a photo of her grinning in a bowling alley. "Dad's terrible at bowling. I'm winning by 30 points." The message eased Amara's anxiety somewhat. At least they were having fun together. Another update came at 3 p.m., a picture of Zora with an ice cream cone the size of her head. "Best ice cream ever at this place, Dad knows." By evening, though, the updates had stopped. Amara resisted the urge to text, not wanting to seem overprotective or to interrupt their time together. Instead, she accepted Lisa's long-standing invitation to join her friends for dinner, hoping the company would keep her from obsessively checking her phone. The restaurant was buzzy and upscale, filled with well-dressed patrons enjoying Saturday night cocktails. Lisa waved enthusiastically from a corner table where she sat with 2 other women Amara recognized from previous get-togethers. "She lives!" Lisa exclaimed, standing to hug Amara. "We thought you'd fallen off the face of the earth." "Just busy with work and Zora," Amara explained, sliding into an empty chair. "You know how it is." "Speaking of Zora, where is she tonight? You usually can't get a sitter on weekends," asked Denise, a marketing executive with 2 teenagers of her own. "She's actually staying with her father overnight," Amara said, trying to keep her tone neutral. "He's back in the picture suddenly." The table fell silent. All 3 women were familiar with Amara's situation. They'd been her support system through the divorce and the difficult years that followed. "Marcus? Mr. CEO who couldn't be bothered to show up for her birthday last year?" Lisa asked incredulously. "What changed?" Amara sighed, reaching for the wine that had already been poured for her. "Apparently his father died, and he had some sort of epiphany about family being more important than work. That, and Fortune magazine is doing a profile on him that includes his personal life." "Ah, there it is," Denise nodded knowingly. "Nothing like a little PR motivation to rediscover your parental instincts." "That's not fair," protested Jasmine, the most diplomatic of the group. "Maybe he really did have a wake-up call. People can change." "Maybe," Amara conceded, though her tone betrayed her skepticism. "But he's also got a serious girlfriend he never mentioned, who's now playing happy stepmother with Zora. The whole thing feels orchestrated." "Wait, he has a girlfriend?" Lisa leaned forward, intrigued. "Who is she?" "Her name's Alexis Monroe. Tall, blonde, looks like she walked out of a luxury brand catalog." Amara took a sip of wine. "She showed up unannounced at Zora's science fair and started calling her sweetheart within 30 seconds of meeting her." Denise grimaced. "Red flag. She's staking her claim, making sure everyone knows she's part of the package now." "Exactly," Amara agreed. And Zora picked up on it immediately. She said it felt like they were playing house and needed a kid to complete the set. "Smart girl," Lisa commented. "So why did you let her go for the overnight visit if you're so concerned?" Amara swirled her wine, considering the question. "Because Zora wanted to try, and because, I don't know, maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe Marcus really does want to be a father again, and I'm letting my past hurt cloud my judgment." "Or maybe your instincts are spot on," Denise countered. "You know Marcus better than anyone. If something feels off, trust that feeling." The conversation shifted to other topics as their meals arrived, but Amara remained distracted, checking her phone discreetly throughout dinner. No more messages from Zora. By 9 p.m., concern had evolved into worry. "Just text her," Lisa advised, noticing Amara's preoccupation. "It's not helicopter parenting to check in on your kid's first overnight with her basically stranger father." Amara nodded, stepping away from the table to compose a message. "Hope you're having fun. Everything okay?" The response came almost immediately, but it wasn't from Zora. It was from Marcus's number. "Zora's fine. We're at a work event. She's making friends with the CEO's daughter. We'll have her text you before bed." A work event? That hadn't been mentioned in any of their discussions about the weekend. Amara felt a surge of anger. Marcus had promised this weekend would be about bonding with Zora, not dragging her to corporate functions. She typed back, "What work event? This was supposed to be time for you and Zora." Marcus, "Last-minute opportunity. Foundation donor reception. Great exposure for Zora to meet successful people. Don't worry, she's enjoying herself." Amara doubted that very much. Zora hated formal events and struggled with social anxiety in unfamiliar settings. The idea of her being paraded around a room full of strangers as Marcus's newly rediscovered daughter made Amara's stomach churn. "Let me speak to her," she demanded via text. Several minutes passed before a response came, this time from Zora. "Hi, Mom. I'm okay. The party is boring, but Dad says we can leave soon. There's a girl my age here, but she's kind of snobby. Miss you." The message confirmed Amara's suspicions. Zora wasn't enjoying herself. She was enduring an adult function that served Marcus's interests, not hers. "Want me to come get you?" Amara offered, already calculating how quickly she could reach the venue, wherever it was. "No, it's okay. Dad promised we'd watch a movie when we get home. Love you." Amara stared at the message, conflict raging within her. Should she insist on picking Zora up? Or would that undermine her daughter's attempt to build a relationship with her father? Before she could decide, Another text arrived from Marcus. "Don't overreact. This is important for the foundation. We'll be home in an hour, and the rest of the weekend will be just family time." The dismissive tone of his message reignited Amara's anger. "Zora is not a marketing tool for your foundation, Marcus. She's a child who needs genuine attention, not a prop at your networking events." No response came. Amara returned to the table. Her mood darkened considerably. "Everything okay?" Jasmine asked, noting her expression. "Marcus took Zora to a work event, some donor reception for his new foundation. He didn't even warn her ahead of time." Amara pushed her plate away, appetite gone. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. He's using her." "Maybe it's not that calculated," Jasmine suggested gently. "Maybe he really does have to attend this event and didn't want to cancel his weekend with Zora." "Then he should have asked me first," Amara insisted. "Zora hates those kinds of functions. She's probably miserable right now, being introduced to strangers and expected to make small talk." Lisa placed a comforting hand on Amara's arm. "So what are you going to do?" "Nothing tonight," Amara decided reluctantly. "Zora says she wants to stay, but tomorrow—" She trailed off, unsure of her next steps. The situation had confirmed her worst fears about Marcus's motives, but confronting him directly might only hurt Zora more. As dinner concluded and Amara prepared to leave, her phone buzzed with an incoming email. The sender was unfamiliar, but the subject line made her freeze. "Marcus Wilson, Family Man feature, photo approval requested." With a growing sense of dread, Amara opened the email to find a message from Vanessa Chen, the fortune reporter from the science fair. "Dear Ms. Johnson, attached are the photos we'd like to use for the Family Man section of our Marcus Wilson profile. As you did not consent to an interview, we've focused on Marcus's relationship with Zora. Please let me know if you have any objections to the enclosed images. We're particularly fond of the father-daughter moment at the science fair. Best regards, Vanessa Chen." Amara clicked on the attachments with trembling fingers. There were several professional photos from the science fair, capturing Marcus and Zora in what appeared to be candid moments of paternal pride and filial admiration. But it was the final image that made Amara's blood run cold. A photo taken that very evening showing Marcus with his arm around Zora at what was clearly the donor reception, with Alexis beside them. The three posed like a perfect family unit. Zora's smile looked forced, her body language stiff and uncomfortable. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. This wasn't about Marcus reconnecting with his daughter out of genuine remorse or a desire to be a better father. This was a carefully orchestrated PR campaign to rebrand Marcus Wilson as a dedicated family man in time for the launch of his foundation. And Zora was the unwitting centerpiece of the entire charade. Amara barely slept that night, her mind racing with anger and concern. By morning, she had made a decision. She would pick Zora up early, confront Marcus about the Fortune article, and put an end to this manipulation. But first, she needed evidence beyond her suspicions. With coffee in hand, she opened her laptop and began searching for information about Marcus's new foundation. The Wilson Future Innovators Foundation had been announced 3 weeks ago with a press release that emphasized Marcus's commitment to fostering the next generation of diverse tech leaders, inspired by his own experience as a father. There was no mention of his 7-year absence from Zora's life, of course. Further searching revealed a slick website featuring photos of Marcus with various children in classroom settings, all carefully multicultural, all looking up at him adoringly. The About page mentioned that the foundation was Marcus's passion project and highlighted his desire to create opportunities for underserved youth like his own daughter faced as a young black girl interested in STEM. Amara nearly choked on her coffee. Zora had never been underserved in her interest in science. Amara had scraped together money for science camps, bought second-hand microscopes, and spent countless evenings helping with experiments. What Zora had lacked was a father's presence, not opportunities. The final confirmation came when Amara found an article in a business journal about the foundation's upcoming launch gala, scheduled for next month. The piece quoted Marcus, "This foundation represents my core values: excellence, opportunity, and family. My daughter Zora inspires everything we do." Her phone buzzed with a text from Zora. "Morning, Mom. Dad's making Belgian waffles for breakfast. Alexis is still asleep. Can you pick me up at 3 instead of 2? We're going to the art museum this afternoon." The normalcy of the message gave Amara pause. Maybe Zora was enjoying herself after all? Should she disrupt that for her own suspicions? But the evidence was too compelling to ignore. "I'll be there at 11, Amara texted back. "Something's come up. We can talk when I get there." Marcus called almost immediately. "What's going on? Zora says you're coming early." "We need to talk, Marcus. About the Fortune article, the foundation, all of it." Amara kept her voice level despite her anger. "I'll be there at 11. "Amara, you're overreacting. The article is—" "Save it for when I get there." She ended the call, not trusting herself to remain civil if the conversation continued. By the time Amara arrived at Marcus's building, she had rehearsed what she wanted to say. She would be calm but firm. She would focus on Zora's well-being, not her own hurt feelings. And she would make it clear that using their daughter as a marketing tool for his foundation was unacceptable. The doorman recognized her and waved her up without calling ahead, a small mercy that gave her the element of surprise. When the elevator doors opened on Marcus's floor, she squared her shoulders and marched to his door. Alexis answered, looking perfectly put together despite the early hour. "Amara, we weren't expecting you until later." Her smile was strained. "Marcus is just helping Zora with her science project data. Come in." The condo was even more impressive in daylight. Floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than Amara's car, and tasteful artwork on every wall. It felt like a showroom, not a home. Marcus and Zora were seated at the dining table, heads bent over the tablet he had given her, surrounded by papers covered in graphs and notes. They looked up in unison as Amara entered. "Mom, you're early," Zora said, surprise evident in her voice. "I need to speak with your father," Amara replied, trying to keep her tone light. "Why don't you pack up your things while we talk?" Zora glanced between her parents, sensing the tension. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, Princess," Marcus assured her. "Just grown-up stuff. Your mom and I will talk in my office." Once Zora had reluctantly left to gather her belongings, with Alexis volunteering to help, Amara followed Marcus into a sleek home office dominated by a massive desk and more city views. "What's this about, Amara?" Marcus asked, closing the door behind them. "Zora's having a great time. Why are you cutting the visit short?" Without a word, Amara pulled out her phone and showed him the email from Vanessa Chen with the attached photos. "Care to explain this?" Marcus scanned the email, his expression unreadable. "It's just a few photos for the article. What's the problem?" "The problem is that you never mentioned this article would feature Zora so prominently. The problem is that you took her to a donor event without my knowledge or permission. The problem," Amara continued, her voice rising despite her efforts to stay calm, "is that you're using our daughter as a prop in your philanthropic rebrand after ignoring her for 7 years." Marcus's jaw tightened. "That's not what's happening. Yes, the foundation is important to me, and yes, having Zora in my life supports the image we're trying to build, but that doesn't mean my desire to reconnect with her isn't genuine." "Doesn't it?" Amara challenged. "Because from where I'm standing, the timing is awfully convenient. Your father dies, you have an epiphany about family values right when you're launching a foundation for underprivileged kids, and suddenly you're desperate to be in Zora's life again." "You're oversimplifying a complex situation," Marcus countered, his tone maddeningly reasonable. "Yes, my father's death was a wake-up call. And yes, the foundation and my personal journey happened to coincide. but that doesn't make my feelings for Zora any less real. Then why didn't you tell me about the article? Why didn't you ask permission before taking her to a donor event? Why this whole charade with Alexis playing stepmother after you've been dating for just 6 months? Marcus sighed, running a hand over his face. I should have been more transparent, I admit that, but I wasn't sure how you'd react. You've been protective since the divorce. Protective? Amara repeated incredulously. Is that what you call it when a mother shields her child from a father who repeatedly disappoints her? Who misses birthdays and school events? Who can't be bothered to call except when it's convenient for him? I made mistakes, Marcus acknowledged, his voice softening. Serious ones. I'm trying to make amends now. By using her for publicity photos? By dragging her to corporate events where she knows no one? That's not making amends, Marcus. That's exploitation. Before Marcus could respond, the office door opened, and Zora stood there, her face pale, her overnight bag clutched in one hand. From her expression, it was clear she had heard at least part of their conversation. You're using me for your foundation? She asked, her voice small and hurt. That's why you suddenly wanted to see me again? Marcus moved toward her immediately. No, Zora, that's not it at all. Your mother is misunderstanding the situation. But Zora backed away from him, tears welling in her eyes. I heard you. You said having me in your life supports the image you're trying to build. What does that even mean? It means that I'm proud to be your father, Marcus tried to explain, desperation creeping into his voice. And yes, that pride extends to my professional life, including the foundation. But that doesn't mean… Is that why you took those pictures last night? Why you made me change clothes 3 times and told me to stand closer to Alexis? Zora's voice cracked. Was it all fake? Of course not, Marcus insisted, but the guilt on his face was answer enough. Alexis appeared in the doorway behind Zora, her expression tense. Marcus, maybe we should all calm down and discuss this rationally. There's nothing to discuss, Amara said firmly, moving to Zora's side and placing a protective arm around her shoulders. We're leaving. Wait, please, Marcus pleaded, his composure finally cracking. Zora, I know this looks bad, but I swear, my feelings for you are real. Yes, the foundation is important to me, and yes, I want you to be part of that story. But that's because I'm genuinely proud of you, not because I'm using you. Zora looked at him, tears now streaming down her face. Then why didn't you want me in your life before? Why now? Why only when it helps your company image? Marcus seemed at a loss for words, a rare occurrence for the polished CEO. It's complicated, Princess. Stop calling me that. Zora's outburst surprised everyone, including herself. I'm not a little kid anymore, and I'm not stupid. I know when I'm being used. The raw hurt in her voice seemed to finally break through Marcus's defenses. He sat heavily in his desk chair, the picture of a man watching his carefully constructed world crumble. You're right, he admitted quietly. I haven't been honest. With you, with your mother, or even with myself. The foundation isn't just a coincidence. When I was planning it, I realized how hypocritical it would look to champion opportunities for children while ignoring my own daughter. The brutal honesty of his confession hung in the air. Amara felt Zora stiffen beside her. So I was just a PR problem to solve, Zora said flatly. No, that's not what I meant, Marcus backpedaled desperately. The foundation made me confront my failings as a father, yes, but once I reached out, once I saw you again, everything changed. I remembered what I'd been missing. I realized how much I truly wanted to be part of your life. But the damage was already done, Alexis interjected unexpectedly. All eyes turned to her. Marcus, you need to tell them the whole truth. Marcus shot her a warning look, but Alexis continued, addressing Amara and Zora directly. The board was concerned about the optics of Marcus launching a children's foundation when he's been an absent father. They suggested he reconnect with Zora before the public announcement. Amara felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. Her worst suspicions confirmed, she turned to Marcus with disgust. "Your board told you to pretend to care about your daughter?" "It wasn't like that," Marcus protested weakly. "They simply pointed out a potential PR issue. The decision to reach out was mine. Because it was good business," Zora concluded, her young face suddenly looking much older in its understanding. "Not because you missed me." "Zora, please." Marcus stood, reaching for her. "Yes, it started that way, but these past weeks, getting to know you again, that's been real. You're brilliant and kind and everything I could hope for in a daughter. I do love you." "You love the idea of me," Zora corrected him, stepping back. "The perfect daughter who makes you look good in magazines. But you don't know me at all." With that, she turned and walked out of the office, her shoulders straight despite the obvious weight of her pain. Amara moved to follow, but paused in the doorway to deliver a final message to Marcus. "Stay away from her," she said quietly. "No more calls, no more gifts, no more pretending to be the father she deserves. She's been through enough." "Amara, you can't keep her from me," Marcus argued, rising from his chair. "I have rights." "Rights you've ignored for 7 years," Amara reminded him coldly. "If you try to force this, I'll go public with the real story. How Marcus Wilson, philanthropist and child advocate, abandoned his own daughter until his PR team told him it looked bad. How's that for optics?" She didn't wait for his response, following Zora out of the condo and into the elevator. As the doors closed on Marcus's stricken face, Amara felt no satisfaction, only a deep sadness for what might have been and for the fresh wound her daughter now carried. In the car, Zora sat in silence, staring out the window as the city passed by. Amara reached over to squeeze her hand gently. "I'm so sorry, honey." "I knew it was too good to be true," Zora whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. "Nobody just changes like that overnight. I was stupid to believe him." "You weren't stupid," Amara insisted. "You were hopeful. There's a difference, and hope is never something to be ashamed of." As they drove home, Amara wondered if the damage Marcus had done could ever truly be repaired, and she silently vowed that she would never let anyone hurt her daughter that way again, not even her own father. The apartment was painfully quiet for the rest of the day. Zora retreated to her room immediately upon their return, and though Amara checked on her periodically, she respected her daughter's need for space to process her hurt. Around dinner time, Amara knocked gently, bearing a plate with Zora's favorite comfort food, grilled cheese and tomato soup. "Not hungry," Zora mumbled from beneath her blankets. "You need to eat something, sweetie," Amara insisted, setting the plate on the nightstand. "Even if it's just a few bites." Zora emerged slowly, her eyes red-rimmed from crying, her curls flattened on one side from lying down. "Why did he do it, Mom? Why pretend to care about me just for some stupid magazine article?" Amara sat on the edge of the bed, choosing her words carefully. "I don't think it was just about the article, Zora. I think your father has convinced himself that his intentions were good, even if his actions tell a different story. But he lied to me, to us." Zora picked up the sandwich half-heartedly. "He made me think he finally wanted to be my dad again." "People can lie to themselves as easily as they lie to others," Amara said gently. "Marcus has always been good at justifying his choices, even when they hurt people." Zora took a small bite of sandwich, chewing thoughtfully. "Was he always like this? Even when you were married?" The question caught Amara off guard. She had been careful over the years not to poison Zora's perception of her father, sharing only the barest facts about their divorce and his subsequent absence. But now, with Zora old enough to understand nuance and Marcus having revealed his true nature so clearly, perhaps honesty was the kindest approach. "Your father was complicated," Amara began. "When we met, he was ambitious but also caring and present. He wanted success, but he also valued our relationship. We were partners, planning a future together." She smiled faintly at the memory. "When I got pregnant with you, he was thrilled. He painted your nursery himself, talked to you through my belly every night." "Really?" Zora looked surprised. "So what changed?" "Success, I think. As his career took off, his priorities shifted. Meetings became more important than dinner together. Business trips extended longer and longer. By the time you were 3, he was essentially a visitor in our home." Amara sighed. "I tried to make it work, to remind him of what mattered. But eventually, I realized I was fighting for someone who didn't exist anymore." "And then he left," Zora concluded flatly. "Actually, I asked for the divorce," Amara corrected. "I couldn't keep pretending we were a family when one of us was never there. I hoped that having set visitation times might actually make him more present for you. That without the responsibility of a wife and household, he might focus his limited family time on being a good father. But he didn't." "No," Amara acknowledged sadly. "He didn't. The visitation schedule lasted about 6 months before the cancellations started. Work emergencies, business trips, important meetings that couldn't be rescheduled." Zora set down her half-eaten sandwich. "Why didn't you tell me all this before? You always just said he was busy with work, that he cared about me even if he couldn't show it." "Because I wanted to protect you from the hurt I was feeling," Amara admitted. "And because I kept hoping he would realize what he was missing and change. I didn't want to make it harder for you two to reconnect if that day ever came." "Well, it came and went," Zora said bitterly. "And it was all fake anyway." "Maybe not entirely," Amara suggested, surprising herself with the concession. "The way it started was wrong, yes. But I saw how he looked at you at the science fair, how proud he was. Those moments seemed genuine. Then why didn't he just tell the truth? Why all the secrecy and the creepy girlfriend and the stupid foundation pictures?" "Because Marcus has spent so long putting his image first that he doesn't know how to be authentic anymore," Amara said. "Even when he feels something real, he filters it through the lens of how it will look to others, how it will advance his goals." Zora considered this, absently stirring her soup. "That's really sad, actually." "It is," Amara agreed, touched by her daughter's capacity for empathy even in her own pain. "Success without meaningful connection is a hollow victory." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the worst of the tension finally broken. Zora took a few more bites of her sandwich, then asked, "Do you think he'll try to see me again?" "I don't know," Amara answered honestly. "I told him to stay away, but Marcus has never been good at taking no for an answer when he wants something." "I don't want to see him," Zora said firmly. "Not for a long time, maybe not ever." "That's your choice, and I'll support whatever you decide." Amara stroked her daughter's hair gently. "But remember, feelings change over time. You might feel differently in the future, and that's okay too." Zora nodded, then surprised Amara by asking, "Can I sleep in your bed tonight, like when I was little?" "Of course," Amara smiled, her heart aching with love for this remarkable child who could still show vulnerability despite her hurt. "We can watch a movie on my laptop if you want." "Thanks, Mom." Zora set aside her dinner tray and hugged Amara tightly. "At least I still have you. You never leave." "Never," Amara promised, blinking back tears. "Not even when you're a grumpy teenager who thinks I'm the most embarrassing person on the planet." That earned a small laugh from Zora, the first since the confrontation with Marcus. "I already think that sometimes." "Well, buckle up, because I'm about to get a whole lot more embarrassing." Amara tickled her daughter's side playfully, relieved when Zora giggled and squirmed away. The evening passed quietly with a marathon of comfort movies and ice cream eaten straight from the carton, a rare treat in their household. By the time Zora fell asleep, curled against Amara's side like she used to as a little girl, some of the day's tension had dissipated. Amara stayed awake longer, scrolling through her phone with the sound off. There were 3 missed calls from Marcus and a series of text messages ranging from apologetic to defensive to pleading. "Please let me explain properly. You're making this worse than it is. I know I messed up, but I deserve a chance to make it right. Tell Zora I love her. Please. Amara, we need to talk about this like adults. The foundation launch is in 3 weeks. We can still fix this. The final message, focusing on the foundation timeline rather than Zora's emotional well-being, confirmed Amara's decision to keep Marcus at a distance. His priorities remained unchanged, despite his professed epiphany. Just as she was about to set her phone aside, a new email notification appeared. Another message from Vanessa Chen at Fortune. Dear Ms. Johnson, I'm following up on my previous email regarding the photo approval for our Marcus Wilson profile. We're on a tight deadline and would appreciate your response by Monday. Additionally, Mr. Wilson has suggested we include a quote from you about his parenting and involvement in Zora's education. Please let me know if you're amenable to providing a brief statement. Best regards, Vanessa Chen. Amara stared at the message in disbelief. Even now, Marcus was trying to maintain his facade, to present a united front with a co-parent who had every reason to expose his lies. The audacity was breathtaking. After a moment's consideration, Amara began typing a response. Ms. Chen, thank you for your email. I do not approve the use of any images featuring my daughter Zora in your profile of Marcus Wilson. As a minor, she requires parental consent for media appearances, and I am exercising my right to withhold that consent. Furthermore, I will not be providing a statement about Mr. Wilson's parenting, as his involvement in our daughter's life has been minimal until very recently, coinciding suspiciously with your magazine profile and his foundation launch. I would suggest you verify the narrative Mr. Wilson has provided about his family life before publishing. Sincerely, Amara Johnson. Her finger hovered over the send button as she considered the consequences. The email would almost certainly derail Marcus's carefully constructed image and potentially impact his foundation launch. Was that fair to the children who might benefit from the foundation's programs, regardless of its founder's personal failings? But then she looked at Zora, sleeping peacefully beside her after hours of heartbreak, and her resolve hardened. This wasn't about punishing Marcus or sabotaging his foundation. It was about protecting her daughter from further exploitation and standing up for the truth. She pressed send, then silenced her phone completely, knowing that Marcus's reaction would be swift and furious. That was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, she would focus on the one thing that truly mattered, helping Zora heal from the fresh wound of her father's betrayal. As if sensing her mother's thoughts, Zora stirred slightly in her sleep, murmuring something inaudible before settling again. Amara gently brushed a curl from her daughter's forehead, marveling at the resilience of this child who had weathered so much disappointment with her spirit intact. "We'll be okay," she whispered, as much to herself as to Zora. "We always are." The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Amara was making pancakes, another comfort food tradition for difficult times, when a knock sounded at their door. Through the peephole, she was surprised to see not Marcus, as she had feared, but Alexis, looking distinctly uncomfortable in designer jeans and a simple blouse. Amara considered ignoring the knock, but curiosity won out. She opened the door slightly, keeping the security chain engaged. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," Alexis said, her usual confident demeanor subdued. "About Marcus and Zora. It's important." Against her better judgment, Amara unlatched the chain and gestured Alexis inside. "Zora's still sleeping. Keep your voice down." Alexis nodded, perching awkwardly on the edge of the sofa, looking out of place in the modest apartment. "Marcus doesn't know I'm here," she began without preamble. "He'd be furious if he found out." "Then why are you?" Amara asked, crossing her arms defensively. Alexis sighed, fidgeting with an expensive-looking bracelet on her wrist. "Because what happened yesterday wasn't right, and because I've been in Zora's position." This admission caught Amara off guard. "What do you mean?" "My stepfather," Alexis explained. "He came into my life when I was 12, right after my parents divorced. He was charming, attentive, bought me expensive gifts, and paraded me around at corporate events like I was a prop in his perfect family tableau. Her mouth twisted in a bitter smile. Sound familiar? Amara sat down, her defensive posture softening slightly. Why are you telling me this? Because I see history repeating itself, and I can't stand by and watch another child go through what I did. Alexis met Amara's gaze directly. Marcus isn't a bad person. He genuinely believes he's doing the right thing now. But he's so focused on image and success that he can't see how his actions affect others. That doesn't excuse what he did, Amara pointed out. No, it doesn't, Alexis agreed. But it might help explain it. And… She hesitated, then continued more quietly. It might help you decide what to do about the Fortune article. Amara's eyes narrowed. He sent you here to convince me to withdraw my objection. No, Alexis insisted firmly. Like I said, he doesn't know I'm here. But I do know that he's in full damage control mode. He had an emergency meeting with his PR team last night after your email to Vanessa Chen. How do you know about that email? Because I was there, Alexis admitted. Marcus is not taking this well. He's convinced himself that the foundation will fail if the profile doesn't portray him as a devoted father. That's not my problem, Amara said coldly. He made his choices. I know, and I'm not asking you to change your mind about the photos or the quote. Alexis leaned forward earnestly. I'm here because Marcus is planning to file for formal visitation rights. His lawyers are drawing up the paperwork today. The news hit Amara like a physical blow. He wouldn't dare. He would, Alexis confirmed grimly. He sees it as his only option to maintain the family image he needs for the foundation launch. If he can't get your cooperation, he'll use the courts to force the issue. After 7 years of neglect, no judge would grant him significant visitation. Maybe not, Alexis conceded. But the legal battle itself would be public, messy, painful for everyone, especially Zora. Amara felt sick at the thought of dragging Zora through custody hearings, forcing her to testify about her feelings toward her father. Why are you telling me this? Why betray Marcus's confidence? Alexis was quiet for a moment, her gaze dropping to her hands. Because my mother didn't protect me, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. She was so desperate for security, for status, that she let my stepfather use me however he wanted, in family photos, at corporate events, in charity campaigns. I was the perfect accessory to his successful businessman image. She looked up, eyes shining with unshed tears. Do you know what that does to a child? To be valued not for who you are, but for how you make someone else look. The raw pain in Alexis's voice resonated with Amara's deepest fears for Zora. I'm sorry that happened to you. I don't want it to happen to Zora, Alexis said simply. She deserves better, and whatever you might think of me, I didn't sign up to be complicit in hurting a child. Before Amara could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. Mom, who are you talking to? Both women turned to see Zora standing in the doorway, sleep-rumpled and confused, her eyes widening as she recognized their visitor. What is she doing here? Alexis stood, gathering her purse. I was just leaving. I'm sorry to intrude on your morning. She came to warn us about something your father is planning, Amara explained, seeing no reason to hide the truth. It was actually kind of her. Zora looked skeptical. Why would you help us? You're with him. Alexis paused at the door, considering the question. Because some things are more important than relationships or career opportunities. Some lines shouldn't be crossed. She smiled sadly at Zora. For what it's worth, I think you're an amazing young woman, and I'm sorry for my part in all this. After Alexis left, Zora turned to Amara with wide eyes. What's Dad planning? Amara hesitated, not wanting to burden Zora with adult concerns but knowing she deserved honesty. He's thinking about going to court to get formal visitation rights, to make sure he can still see you, even though you don't want to right now. "He can't do that," Zora exclaimed, panic rising in her voice. "Can he?" "He can try," Amara said carefully, "but I won't let him put you through that if I can help it." As Zora processed this information, her expression shifted from fear to a steely determination that reminded Amara forcefully of herself. "I want to talk to him," she announced. "Zora, I don't think that's a good idea right now. You're still upset and—" "I need to tell him myself," Zora insisted. "He doesn't listen to you. Maybe he'll listen to me." Amara studied her daughter's resolute face, recognizing that this wasn't just about avoiding a court battle. This was about Zora reclaiming her agency, about standing up for herself after being used as a pawn in her father's game. "Okay," she agreed finally, "but we do it together, and on our terms, not his." They arranged to meet Marcus at a neutral location, a quiet cafe in a neighborhood halfway between their apartment and his condo. Amara insisted on a public place, wanting witnesses if Marcus lost his temper, which seemed increasingly likely based on his escalating text messages throughout the morning. As they waited at a corner table, Zora fidgeted with her napkin, tearing it into tiny pieces. "What if he doesn't listen to me either?" "Then we'll have tried our best," Amara said, reaching across to still her daughter's nervous hands. "The important thing is that you get to say your piece, to tell him how his actions have affected you." "I've been practicing in my head," Zora admitted. "But what if I forget everything when I see him?" "Then you can take a deep breath and start again, or I can step in if you need me to. This is your conversation, Zora. You lead, I follow." Marcus arrived exactly on time, looking haggard in a way Amara had rarely seen him. His usual polished appearance was slightly disheveled, shirt wrinkled, hair not perfectly styled, dark circles under his eyes suggesting a sleepless night. He spotted them immediately and approached with visible trepidation. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, directing the comment to both of them but his eyes lingering on Zora. "I wasn't sure you would." "This was my idea," Zora replied, her voice steadier than Amara had expected. "I have things I need to say to you." Marcus nodded, sliding into the chair across from them. "I'm listening." Zora took a deep breath, just as they had practiced. "I know about the legal stuff you're planning. Alexis told us." Surprise flashed across Marcus's face, followed quickly by anger. "Alexis had no right." "Actually, she did the right thing," Amara interrupted. "Unlike you, she was thinking about what's best for Zora." "Everything I've done has been for Zora," Marcus insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. "No," Zora said firmly. "It's been for your image, for your foundation, for your magazine article, not for me." Marcus looked pained. "Zora, that's not true. Yes, those things are important to me, but reconnecting with you has been genuine." "Then why did you lie? Why did you have to be told by your board to be my dad again?" Zora's voice wavered slightly, but she pressed on. "Why did you take all those pictures at the donor event when you knew I was uncomfortable? Why did you make me pose with Alexis like we were some perfect family when you've barely been in my life?" Each question landed like a blow, and Marcus seemed to physically shrink under their weight. "I made mistakes," he acknowledged quietly. "I got caught up in the optics, in making everything look perfect. But that doesn't mean my feelings for you aren't real. If your feelings are real, then why are you threatening to take Mom to court?" Zora demanded. "Why can't you respect that I need space from you right now?" "Because I'm afraid," Marcus admitted, the simple honesty of the statement catching both Amara and Zora by surprise. "I'm afraid that if I don't fight for a place in your life now, I'll lose you forever. And I'm afraid that everything else I've built will collapse if I can't even be a decent father to my own daughter." "So it's still about you," Zora observed with a perception beyond her years. "About your fears, your needs, your image." Marcus opened his mouth to object, then closed it again, considering her words. "Maybe you're right," he said finally. "Maybe I haven't changed as much as I thought I had." A silence fell over the table, heavy with unspoken emotions. Amara watched Zora's face, ready to intervene if needed, but her daughter seemed determined to handle this on her own. "I don't want you to take Mom to court," Zora said eventually, her voice quiet but firm. "It would just make everything worse, and I don't want to see you right now. Maybe not for a long time." The pain on Marcus's face was genuine. "I understand that you're hurt, Zora, but cutting me out completely—" "It's not about punishment," Zora interrupted. "It's about trust. You broke mine, again, and I need time to figure out if I can ever trust you again." "Time," Marcus repeated, as if testing the word. "How much time?" "I don't know," Zora answered honestly. "That's not something I can predict. It depends on you, too." "On me?" Hope flickered in Marcus's eyes. "On whether you can prove that you actually care about me, not just about how I make you look." Zora straightened in her chair, her expression serious. "If you really want to be my dad, then act like one. Even when there are no cameras, even when it's not convenient, even when it doesn't help your foundation or your magazine article." Amara felt a surge of pride at her daughter's articulate stance. Zora wasn't shutting the door completely on a relationship with her father, but she was setting clear boundaries, something Amara herself had struggled to do in her own relationship with Marcus. "I can do that," Marcus said quickly. "I'll cancel the legal consult. No courts, no pressure. I'll respect your need for space." "And the magazine article?" Amara prompted. "Will you stop trying to use Zora as your poster child for Father of the Year?" Marcus hesitated, his businessman instincts clearly warring with his parental obligations. "The foundation launch is in 3 weeks. The profile is a key part of our publicity strategy." "Then you have a choice to make," Amara said simply. "Your foundation's image or your daughter's well-being. You can't have both, not this time." "Mom's right," Zora added. "If you really want to help kids, you can do it without using me in your promotions. Actually, it would be more honest that way." Marcus looked between them, conflict evident on his face. Then, with a resigned sigh, he pulled out his phone. "I'll call Vanessa now. I'll tell her to remove all mentions and photos of Zora from the article." "On speaker," Amara requested, not quite ready to trust his word. To his credit, Marcus complied, placing the call right there at the table. After a brief exchange with Vanessa, during which he firmly instructed her to remove all references to his daughter from the profile, he ended the call and set the phone down. "Satisfied?" "It's a start," Zora acknowledged, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "But it doesn't fix everything." "I know," Marcus agreed soberly. "I have a lot to make up for. 7 years of absence, plus the recent manipulation. I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness, Zora. Just a chance, eventually, to try again. The right way this time." Zora considered this, her expression thoughtful. "I might be ready to talk again after the foundation launch, when there's nothing for you to gain from seeing me." "That's more than fair," Marcus said, looking genuinely relieved. "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime, I think we both need space," Zora said firmly. "No calls, no texts, no surprise gifts, just time to think." Marcus nodded slowly, accepting her terms. "And after the launch, how should I reach out?" "I'll contact you," Zora decided, "when I'm ready." The conversation wound down after that, an awkward silence descending as they finished their drinks. When it was time to leave, Marcus stood and hesitated, clearly wanting to hug Zora but unsure if the gesture would be welcome. Zora solved his dilemma by offering her hand instead. "Goodbye, Dad. For now." "Goodbye, Zora," he replied, shaking her hand with a formality that acknowledged her boundaries. "Thank you for giving me another chance to get this right, even if it's not right away." Outside the cafe, Amara put her arm around Zora's shoulders as they walked to the car. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "That couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," Zora admitted. "But it felt good to say everything I was thinking instead of just being angry inside." "Do you think he really understood?" Zora considered the question seriously. I think he wants to understand. But changing is hard, especially when you've been one way for so long. She glanced up at Amara. Did you love him once? Like, really love him? The question caught Amara by surprise. Yes, she answered honestly. Very much. He wasn't always the person you saw this week. There was a time when he was passionate and present and full of dreams that included all of us, not just his career. What happened? Success changed him, or maybe it just revealed who he always was underneath. Amara shrugged. Sometimes people show you their best selves when life is challenging, and their worst when things get easier. Is that why you never remarried? Zora asked, curiosity overcoming her usual reluctance to discuss her mother's love life. Because you're afraid someone else will change too? Amara laughed softly. Partly that. Mostly I was too busy raising a pretty amazing kid to worry about dating. You should date, Zora declared unexpectedly. You deserve someone who treats you well all the time, not just when it's convenient. Oh, really? Amara raised an eyebrow, amused by this turn in the conversation. And when did you become an expert on my love life? I'm just saying, Zora grinned, a glimpse of her usual spirited self breaking through the solemnity of the day. You're not that old, you know, and you're pretty and smart. Someone would be lucky to have you. Well, thank you for that ringing endorsement, Amara said dryly. I'll keep it in mind. As they drove home, Amara reflected on the week's events, from Marcus's unexpected reappearance to the painful confrontation, and now this tentative resolution. It wasn't a perfect ending. There were still hurt feelings and broken trust to contend with. But Zora had stood up for herself, had set boundaries that even Marcus Wilson couldn't bulldoze through. That, in itself, was a victory. The foundation launch came and went 3 weeks later without any contact from Marcus. True to his word, the Fortune profile made no mention of his daughter, focusing instead on his business achievements and philanthropic vision. Amara monitored the coverage carefully, relieved to find no photos of Zora, no quotes about his parenting journey, no exploitation of their family story for PR value. A month after the launch, on a rainy Sunday afternoon, Zora approached Amara with a determined expression. I think I'm ready to talk to Dad again, she announced. Not to go back to how things were before, just to see if he's really changed. Amara nodded, respecting her daughter's decision. Do you want me to call him, or would you rather do it yourself? I'll do it, Zora said, her confidence stronger now. But can you sit with me while I do? Always, Amara promised, following Zora to the couch where she dialed Marcus's number with steady hands. As Zora began the conversation with her father, cautious but open to possibility, Amara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Whatever happened next, whether Marcus proved worthy of a second chance or not, Zora was approaching the situation with clear eyes and strong boundaries. She was learning to protect her heart while still leaving room for hope, to demand respect without closing herself off to connection. In that moment, watching her daughter navigate this complex relationship with such grace, Amara knew that despite all the challenges of single parenthood, despite the financial struggles and the absent co-parent and the countless nights of worry, she had succeeded in the one thing that truly mattered: raising a child who knew her own worth and wouldn't settle for less than she deserved, not even from her CEO father, and that was worth more than all of Marcus Wilson's millions combined. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.